Hello, everyone. My name is Rose Simpson. I'm a librarian at the New Haven Free Public Library. And today we have our first session of Co-Create. We have two wonderful artists here who are going to be working on different projects. Would you two like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Nadine Nelson, and I am happy to be the creative in residence this year at Eve Squared. I am an artist. People know me for my food art. However, I do multidisciplinary art. And I'm going to be enjoying expanding my process and my practice this year at Eve Squared. So I am a trained teacher, and my first guest is Cagen Luse, who was part of my first student teaching class at Cambridge Ranger Latin.
And that was years ago?
over 30 years ago, because
oh no!
because I turned 50 this year. And so
Congratulations.
I taught him English. And we were out of touch for a little while. And then I was thinking about how we reconnected. We reconnected at a funeral, but then we've been friends ever since. And
did we?
Yeah, at the Boston the meeting center in Beacon Hill.
That's right.
And so
wow, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, a very long time ago. And so we became friends, as I often do with my students after they graduate. And we have had lots of different interactions. He did my first logos, my first website. I catered his wedding. I know his daughter, who is now a farmer, and maybe I influenced her a little bit in regard to that. But he's a wonderful father, a wonderful husband. So there's many different things that we can talk about, but I'm glad to have him as my first guest. I want to have him as my first guest because I've always respected him as like a Renaissance man and a Renaissance person. And, he's been a person who's gone to art school and always practices art and always made money from art. And so I think that he defies a lot of different stereotypes that people have of artists. And I think that that's really important. So I'll let him talk about his work and introduce himself. So thank you for being here, Cagen.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Miss Nelson. Been a couple of years since she calls you that. My name, again, is Cagen Luse. I am an artist, multidisciplinary, but right now my main focus is on comic art. I've had a comic series that I've done comics for my entire life, essentially, but I've done a comic series called Lunchtime Comics for the last 4 years. It started out as kind of like a self-challenge to myself to see if I could produce a comic a day for a week. And on my lunch break at work, which is where Lunchtime Comics comes from, because I wanted to draw more. So I did a couple of comics, released them on Facebook, and people seem to like them. So I continued to do them, and now it's 4 years later. I've been published in Dig Boston, which is a alt weekly newspaper in Boston, and they publish me pretty regularly. I've also produced like 6 books of comics. I've got 200 episodes done of Lunchtime Comics. So it's a comic series based on my life and my family. My family are characters in my comic. Which makes it kind of fun. And there's so much material with my family because they're pretty funny. And I'm also a co-founder of Comics in Color, which is a group of comic artists, writers, and enthusiasts who, well, back when we could meet in person, we met monthly in Boston at the Grove Hall Library, and now we're doing it virtually. And you can find more information about that at comicsincolor.org. Our next one is on November 14th, where we'll be talking about Black mental health. And we have a young man who did a Black mental health comic, and his psychology professor is going to come on, and we're going to talk about mental health issues in the COVID era. And, I'm sure that depending on how this election shakes out, I'm sure we're going to have a lot of folks feeling some kind of a way. So I'm looking forward to that. Let's see what else. I also do, I have a business, 950 Design, where I make my own designs on t-shirts and illustrations and cards and buttons and a whole bunch of different products. So that's kind of nutshell of the things that I do currently. And I'm a
Great.
graphic designer by trade. Like my 9 to 5 is a graphic designer.
Oh,
All
thank
right.
you for the introduction, for introducing yourselves, both of you. What are you going to be working on today?
Well, I am going to be working on a comic. I do a 4-panel comic. Um, I try to draw on it every day, and so tonight I'm going to be getting started on my next episode.
What I'm going to be working on today is drawing. I think that Martha Lewis, who is a curator in New Haven, that I did a show with last year, she pushed me to draw, and I really kind of resented it. But then I drew out what I proposed to her, and it came to life exactly how I'd drawn it. And so I think that the process of visualization is very important. And like usually I write out my things because I'm also a writer, and that's what I got my degree in. And I've always felt like drawing is like something that you have to be like really innately good at. But I think that since uh, Kagan was going to be on it, got me inspired to draw. I'm going to draw I thought it would be fun to draw some things for my installations and talk to Kagan about them as because it's about process and giving advice and getting advice. So, but then also I have a workshop on Saturday on art and manifestation, and we're going to be making seagulls, so which are based on like um, symbolism. And I thought I might do one in color with really nice pens. So just to get in the mood for Saturday. And
Nice.
then I have these jars where it's like we have a mutual friend named Ife Franklin. She makes these bottles called conjure bottles. And so I have an installation called Channeling Oshun. And so I need to make some more things for that. So I was just doing a vase with shells. So I like to work on many different things because I have ADHD.
Yeah, my process is often like bouncing around between things as well. Keeps it interesting. And it's funny that you mentioned about the not wanting to draw, because one of the tenets of comics in color is that we always say that you don't, like, in order to make comics or to do anything, you don't really need to have a certain level of drawing ability, right? There's comics that have been around forever that are just stick figures, right? So anyone can draw, anyone can tell their story visually.
Like XKCD, a very popular webcomic that's
That's
entirely stick figures.
exactly who I was talking about, XKCD. It's a brilliant comic, actually, but very simple stylistically.
Yeah, it's very intelligently done. A lot of science, a lot of literature and math, but it's
Yes.
very simple art.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you said that you might do a comic on food. Well, you said you just mentioned the comic book person. Like, who's some of your influences that you that your work has been inspired by?
Well, I
Or
have
you?
a bunch of influences. Probably the biggest one would be Aaron Magruder, the creator and author of The Boondocks. He, I was a fan of his since, the comic strip was appearing. And then, his story, he was just such a young guy writing this really intelligent, biting comic, and got nationally syndicated with it, and then was able to turn it into a television show and kind of like a media empire. Even though it didn't particularly end well for him with the television show, it was always his journey was always an inspiration, because he was able to take, you know by himself, creating this comic and turn it into, a media empire almost. So he's one big influence. Also, I grew up reading a lot of Garfield and Bloom County and Doonesbury. So all those comic strips were really influential. Um, Also, a local guy, Tak Toyoshima, who used to do, he still does, a comic called Secret Asian Man. which was in Dig Boston a few years ago. And but he did a comic that was kind of based on his life, and he used his family and his friends kind of as bases for his characters, and that really inspired me to consider using my family and my life as characters in my comic work.
So how does your family feel like being in your comics?
Well, I've been very lucky that, right at the beginning, I spoke with my wife and my daughter about it, and they both said they gave me carte blanche to pretty much do whatever I wanted. Now, understanding that I still have to live with these people, so I can't go too far out, you know what I mean? But they trusted me enough to say you can do whatever you want, with our characters. And these are characters that are definitely based on them, kind of use them as a guidebook. They're not particularly, of course, it's always my voice coming from them, but it's often based on situations, that they were involved in. So they've been really good about that.
How was art in your life? Talk about your art journey.
Art has always been in my life. My mother is an artist, so from a young age, she always supported me drawing and doing my artwork. So when I was younger, I went to summer arts camps. I took classes at the local arts college. When I was still like in middle school, so that I've always been supported, and even to the point that my parents supported me going to art school, which is not all parents would do that, because a lot of people think you can't make any money doing art.
So why did you feel that you could, and how have you?
Well, for me, it was never a choice, right? Art is something that drove me. It was something that I wanted to do, and it's so I never really considered any other career except going into something arts related. And so I went to art school, um, you know, when I got out of high school, and did that for a couple of years. But life situations came along, and I was moving towards a degree in computer animation at the time because I was interested in pursuing a career in animation. But life happens, and I had to leave school, and then I came back to Boston, and my stepmother had a public relations company, and so I started working with her and kind of found a love for graphic design there, and was able to use my illustration and design skills that I had picked up in college, and you know, and through that, I learned a lot working through her, and then I started doing freelance work and picking up jobs in the community here and there, doing graphic design work, like for Discerning Taste and so on and so forth, which was Nadine's old company name. You don't use that one anymore, do you?
No.
No. And so I would do jobs like that, and then I, started working in newspaper production. So I did that for a while. I worked at the Bay State Banner, and that was another real learning experience where, you know, graphic design, you get to have some sort of creativity, but production work is very much, fitting things into a slot. So that was helped me just be more efficient with my graphic design work. But I've had a couple of different jobs in the graphic design field, and that's been pretty lucrative. And then, after doing that for a while, I had an itch. Doing commercial design is great, but I have this need to do my own work, right? To use my own voice and express myself in that way. So I started doing my own work. I started with an illustration series called Americana Noir that was based on some photographs I found in the Library of Congress taken by the Farm Administration in the early 1900s. And I created like graphic illustrations from those and then turned them into products. They were cards, they were posters, there were buttons, there were magnets, they were paperweights. And so then I started doing the vending thing, which is, you make a whole bunch of stuff and you carry it and put it under a tent and sell it to people. And I did that for probably 10 years. And it was slow to begin with, but by the time I was done and I really started getting into the t-shirts and stuff like that, it actually turned out to be pretty lucrative, but also a ton of work. Producing all, like, I handmade everything that I sold. So it was a lot of work prepping for the shows.
Where did you sell your creations? Was that craft fairs and the like?
Yeah, I started out doing open studios. That's kind of where it jumped off, Roxbury Open Studios specifically. And then I would do different open studios through the city. And then I started kind of opening up, and I did a SOA, which was an arts market that happened weekly in Boston for a while. And so that was like outdoor under a tent, and I would do art fairs and other open studios. And then I ended up at the Black Market, which was a weekly a Black owned business market in Roxbury. And yeah, but then, then the comics started to take off, and I kind of had to switch the way I was doing my stuff a little bit. Because there's still, well, there used to be conventions and stuff to go to sell comic books, and hopefully they'll come back again someday.
So how has COVID influenced your business?
Well, when it first, so I was planning a comic convention called the Boston Comics and Color Festival that was going to be in April 2020. I had everything together. I had all the artists. I had the programming done. I had set up so much cool stuff. I had a venue, and obviously it didn't happen. And
What
that
venue
month,
did you have?
Hmm?
What venue did you have?
It was at Roxbury Community College at the Reggie Lewis Center.
Okay.
Yep. So it was a free event, but we had over 500 people RSVP'd to come to it. We had 40 artists. We had 3 tracks of workshops and programming that was going to happen. We were going to have live art. We were going to have dance and music. It was going to be super, super dope. But it did not happen. But I still have in my sights that it will happen. But also, so I lost some time and energy from that one, and I also had a bunch of workshops and panels and stuff that I was going to be on leading up to that and after that, and a bunch of cons that I was going to market my own work, as well as the next festival. And all that didn't happen. I lost quite a bit of money with through the workshops and stuff. I was able to do a few of them virtually eventually, so it all worked out. But yeah, initially I lost quite a bit of money and also time.
Well, funny enough, like I did my first curation this year with Channeling Oshun, which is an installation. And I was looking forward to doing events again because, my daughter is, she's 12. And so I thought that I could, travel more and do more events. And I was just getting ready to, I'm trying to make the seagull with geometry, and it's so, geometry is not my forte. And it's like I have all these markers and I don't have a pencil. My pencils are upstairs. My pencils are upstairs. It was so bad. And my daughter has a pencil down here. So yeah, so I was just getting ready. Like we had the opening. It was really good. Like it was in Jersey City, New York. And so people came from all over. And then we were getting ready to do all these different events because it was like about the 5 senses. And, and I was getting ready to pay the different artists, I had a belly dancer. I had like a woman who sings Brazilian, I forgot what they call this particular there's these beautiful kind of love songs, and other people, and then COVID came and it was just like, okay, this is canceled, but I did not put those deposits on. And so I was so disappointed, but like happy that I had not made those commitments, because that's really hard, like to be able to do. And especially it's like I would have honored them and been really.
Right. That would have been really terrible.
Yeah. So I don't like being on video usually, but it does, like we were talking about it before, how there's something to be said when you can just come downstairs and like put the video on,
Absolutely.
So I can like it a little bit.
Yeah, I miss the traveling and going to different cons and events and stuff like that, but there is something to be said for just going downstairs and turning on a computer and being able to, have conversations with people and, do work together online.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for it. But I really miss the in-person stuff. I miss the cons. I really enjoy, seeing my folks and getting out there and politicking and just, finding opportunities, meeting new fans. I miss it.
Yeah. I miss traveling too. I
Yeah.
enjoyed the first 3 months being home because I travel so much.
Right.
But being just in one place all the time.
Yeah. It wears on you, and getting through that whole summer without taking a vacation or really doing the stuff we usually do is hard.
So
But I did.
Kagan,
Mhm.
I was just say Kagan and I usually see each other in Martha's Vineyard.
That's right. Did you make it out there at all?
No, we didn't go. We didn't go this year.
We did a day trip.
Oh, okay.
We stayed out in on the Cape, and then just went over there for the day. But it was, and it was great to get over there, but it's not the same. Like going for a couple of hours is not the same as relaxing out there for
I never liked doing
a week.
We always, there's so much to do.
Yeah. But one thing that did come out of the COVID thing that was positive was I did a whole series. I did 14 comics called The New Normal, that were just about the experience of being at home and homeschooling and trying to work from home, and just the way that the world shifted so quickly, and just that experience. And it seemed to they got a lot of traction. I mean, people really seemed to like them, and they got out there. They got published in the paper. They got published on WBUR. So that was a good thing. Yeah, because it was really like almost a therapy thing, because we're just going through so much, and then being able to kind of like put it down on paper and share that experience with people really helped me work through it. And I mean, the hope that, other people saw it and said, oh, look at that. We're not alone here. Here's the example of another person going through the same thing that I'm going through.
Yeah, art was like really cathartic for me also. And like doing different types of art. I was trying to, this spring, I did a lot of foraging.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to do more with like having a herbal notebook and those old-fashioned drawings and stuff. So I don't know if I'll do some of the drawings because it helps me memorize the plants. But I love the old-fashioned drawings, like the ones from the Victorian times.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes me feel like, oh, I'll mix it up right now. So there are different people on the call, and you guys can ask questions. So this is just, free form. I just drew a seagull. I'm going to start doing a design. I did it. My daughter did find a pencil, so I don't know if people can see it. Can people see that?
No.
Can't.
Not too well.
Well, I'll color it in, then you'll be able to see it. Can you see it better now?
Yeah, a little better.
Yeah. So
Yeah, oh yeah, I can see it now.
yeah, so I'm gonna try and make it colorful now with different designs.
It's an angular
But
seagull.
Hmm?
It's an angular seagull.
Yeah. Well, I haven't really done them. My friend who's going to be doing this art manifestation workshop does them. But I like the whole idea of they start off with words, like a manifestation, like an intention or an affirmation, and that you get rid of the words. And then there's this whole symbolism thing and technique. And then it comes down to, I can change it, but I did this one on the computer, and then I'm going to decorate it. But then tomorrow I'll do it the way that she hand draws hers, and then you configure it different ways to make your symbols. But I have these florology cards, and I'll read your card, Cagen. I'll read whoever wants me to do their cards. So last year when I was doing my installations, because that was like I did a bunch of installations. So I did this installation called Kitchen Sanctum, which was for Our Bodies Ourselves. It was commemorating, they had an exhibit here in New Haven to commemorate Our Bodies Ourselves, which was encyclopedia about female reproductive issues that took place it was their 40th anniversary, and they came out of Cambridge, and they were really radical at the time when, like we have the internet, but you didn't have all that information out there. So they
I
would
remember
publish.
that book.
Yeah, yeah. So it was right down there. Headquarters is right in Inman Square. That's where their headquarters was. Yeah, right down the street from Cambridge and Latin. So I had the Kitchen Sanctum, and it was a place like where it's like celebrating like the feminine. And so I was thinking about different things that I can commodify as an artist, because, like I do just food art. So it's like very fleeting. So I love cards. I've always loved cards. And so I made these flower power cards to commemorate florology and like the whole significance between female reproduction and flowers. And so, and also as a way that when people come into my space, it can be kind of weird to talk to them when you don't know them. Like I'm social when I know people, but when I don't know people, I can be a little awkward. So I need like a little discussion starter. So this is what the cards are. So even though you can't put your hands on here energetically, you could think about something that you want to flower. I'm shuffling them. All right. Something that you want to cultivate, something that you want to blossom. And then I will
put anything, not
yeah, it could be anything. Yeah. So it could be just, like however you want to answer the question. You don't have to say it out loud. If you want to afterwards, we could talk about it, because I know you, but I tell people usually if I don't know you, I just ask you like why you think you got the card, and then we have a conversation about it. But since I know you, then I might have more context. And I always preface that I'm not clairvoyant. I'm like more like an empath, and I'm just a conduit, for your message. That's it. I can't tell the future. I'm not Miss Cleo. So now I'm spreading the cards right now, and I'm running my hands. I'm doing jazz hands over them.
All right.
And then
I'll just tell you when to stop.
Yeah, you just tell me when to stop and when to pick a card.
Okay, stop.
All right. So you got whorehounds, and it says health. So why do you think you got that card? And what did you ask to flower, cultivate, or blossom?
I was thinking about career-wise, so I'm not really sure what the health thing has to do. Maybe it's the health of my career, but just thinking about like wanting to grow my art practice in a way that gets a larger audience.
So do you think it has like significance in saying like, what would be healthy is like multiple streams of income and a strong foundation. Do you think like that?
Could be, or it could be just, I definitely have a tendency to work so hard and not, maybe not pay attention to my health needs as well as I should. So maybe it's telling me that with it, as you're working and growing what, you're trying to manifest, you also have to make sure you take time to, you know, make sure your health is together as well.
Okay, so a better health life balance.
Yes.
Are you exercising?
No, I was so dedicated to exercising, but when COVID hit, I haven't back to the gym. I don't know if I feel safe going back to the gym. I mean, I definitely got out and bike rode and played sports with my son and stuff all summer. So I was active, but not like I was before. You know,
Are you
I
eating well? Are you eating your vegetables?
no, it all went out the window with COVID. Like I was doing so good. I was so healthy and
Oh,
all
I'm
that
gonna have
stuff.
to talk to Marissa. Oh my
Uh,
God, you guys.
yeah,
You
it,
know,
it all
I'm
kind of
not
went
gonna
out the window.
I'm not gonna chastise you. Like vegetables are my thing.
I mean, I eat vegetables, I'm saying, but I like vegetables, so I eat them. But it's like the candy and the cookies and the cake and and we haven't even gotten to, Thanksgiving and Christmas yet, which is going to be even worse. But it is, I do, I mean, I need a reminder to, concentrate on my health and be more health conscious just in my general practice.
Um,
I think that's a good card to get.
yes. Do you um okay, does anyone else want me to do their cards? Cynthia or James? Or do you want to ask a question? Because it's all about it's experience, but also for you to ask questions and for us to be able to give you advice or just process or whatever. It's like free flow.
Oh, yeah. What do you mean do my cards? I don't have any cards.
Oh,
You have oh,
I just did his cards. I make these
all right.
cards. So I'll show
Okay,
people a little bit so you could see.
cool.
So I was saying that people know me for my food art. And so I've been trying to push myself to do other things so I can be taken more
Mhm.
seriously, because I think that people might think that, food is easy or, I don't know.
Oh, no,
But
I think I've met you. I think I met you like at Monharis few years ago. You're a friend of Tegan Engels, and
yes.
I know Tegan. So
Oh yeah.
so
Yeah.
I got to show you one thing. My
Yes.
new sweatshirt, which I saw online, and I had to buy it. It expresses the feeling that the spirit of our age,
Huh.
pushing the damn boulder uphill. You like it?
It's like Sisyphus.
It's Sisyphus. Yes,
Absolutely.
exactly.
I think we all
All
feel
right.
that.
Anyway, enough of that. Yes.
So James, what do you do?
I'm an English teacher and writer,
Okay.
and yeah.
I'm a trained English teacher. I don't know if
Yeah.
you weren't here at the beginning, but
No.
Cagen is he was part of my first teaching my student teaching class. So I taught him when I
Okay.
was 21,
Wow.
and
Wow.
I'm 50
How
now.
old was he? What grade was that?
Was it 11th grade?
Yeah, I think it was 11th
Oh,
grade.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So I was just a little bit older than the kids that I was
Yeah,
teaching.
yeah. No,
And yeah, so
that's
it was a
interesting.
very
Yeah.
interesting experience.
Yeah, it was.
And so I am a trained educator, and I just combine my love of education with food. And I was an interdisciplinary educator and an interdisciplinary artist or multidisciplinary.
Right.
So what do you write about?
Oh, well, I write like literary criticism. I teach at Yale. I'm in the English
Okay.
department, and so some lit crit. I published a couple of books of poetry. I've published
Oh, nice.
a couple of books of kind of weird political manifestos.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, this, that, and the other.
Okay. So I used to be a poet. I don't write poetry. I said maybe today I might write some poetry, like might do some haikus. I've been wanting to do some nature haikus, go out in nature and do some haikus.
Mhm.
Just to work my mind and play with language. So I have
Yeah.
these cards, and you probably remember our bodies, ourselves. So they're flower cards, and each one has different flowers on there that have different meanings. Like in Victorian times, Muslims, different cultures have used florology as a basis of communication because um, um, you could, like in Victoria times, you can talk about sex, like, so it's like code word for, like, all those things. So
Right.
this is part of our body, ourselves, an exhibit called Kitchen Sanctum. And it was an installation where people came into a kitchen, but it was like, very beautifully appointed. And there's all these different stations. So I do social sculpture and I try and create different situations for people to enjoy. So these were like discussion starters. So I have affirmation cards that I made for that deal with like health and the issues of our body, ourselves. And then I made these flower cards. So I will make them again, but they're like really that these are the prototypes and you can't read anything on the back. So I didn't know
No, I
like,
can't. No.
oh, like Kagan, look at this. It's like such bad graphic design. So
I won't hold it against you.
yeah, well, it's like, look, I say as an artist, you always have to try. So now I know that you can't do 6 point.
I could have told you
I
that.
know you can't do 6 point. So the next time I do them, I will work with a graphic designer because they will get the point, you know.
At least 10. At
Is
least
I don't
10
know if that's
points.
your daughter, but if she wants me to do her cards, I'll do her cards, So people are like, oh, well, how is this art? But then like when we sit down and we engage, it has a conversation and then you never know where the conversation's gonna go. So normally people wouldn't come and sit down and talk to me about, their life necessarily, or maybe they would because I'm a good conversationalist, but the cards are a nice catalyst to be able to do it very easily. And then also I feel like they a lot of people, they're looking for a message. And, for some people I've done it for, they're like, oh, they've had roses that came up and they're like, that was my father because he grew roses by our driveway, like, so people, that kind of thing happened. So who would like for me to do their cards? Oh,
What's the little noise we're hearing in the background?
I don't know.
I would guess that's probably feedback from someone's microphone picking up their speakers.
Okay, so I should be on mute then.
Yeah. In general, if you're not speaking, it's probably safest to mute so we don't get feedback.
Yeah. So, but you could do my card if you.
Okay, we have to talk though, because you have to put the energy out there. So,
Uh,
so I'm shuffling the cards, Cynthia. All
mhm.
right, and then think about something that you want to flower. Think about something that you want to cultivate. Think about something that you want to blossom. So I just put it out there 3 different ways. So, and tell me when to stop. Okay.
Wait, that's one thought or 3
Yeah.
thoughts?
Yes. No, it's one thought. All synonyms: blossom, flower, cultivate,
Um,
or synonymous.
and personal, does it have to be personal?
I leave it as broad as you want it to be or as small as what you want it to be. It's really up to you.
Okay.
All right. So just tell me when to stop.
Okay, you can stop.
All right. I am spreading the cards and I'm doing jazz hands over the cards. Just tell me when to stop.
Okay, you can stop.
All right. All right. You got birds of paradise, joyfulness, magnificence, and wonderful anticipation. Why do you think you got this card, Cynthia?
Well, for in 1985, which may sound like a long time ago, but it actually was not very long ago. I was still a real painter on canvas, and it was when I transitioned to working on the computer. So I'm an early computer person, and I was doing Birds of Paradise as my primary source, because I would draw from nature and then abstract it in various ways. So that's why I got Birds of Paradise, because I worked from Birds of Paradise for so long. And then that particular year was unbelievably intense. Like, I had so many shows. I was literally painting in my sleep. I had a studio at the wonderful building where CVS is right now, on the corner of Church and Chapel. But up at the top, there's a skylight, if you've ever looked up, and I had that studio. That was my studio where there was, it was really cheap. The building was a wreck. So a piece of that is it is the only time in my life where I actually took an adult vacation, where I walked in the travel agent and said, I need to go someplace and relax, because it was show after show, including a big solo show in New York, a solo show in New York that got written up in Arts Magazine, you know, like the whole thing you think is going to make your career. Of course it doesn't. I mean, none of those things in the end matter, but when you're in your 30s, they seem to matter. So I went to Martinique because I figured at the very least, let me improve my French. And there were Birds of Paradise growing everywhere. So that was really, it just all, yeah.
So what do you think the card is telling you in regard to all of that then?
Chill out a little. I don't know.
What are you wonderfully anticipating?
What am I wonderfully anticipating? Oh, it's a big question. I'm anticipating a new direction in my work right now that's kind of starting to emerge, of bringing a lot of different things together.
Well, I look forward to seeing it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, so pieces of that. And I don't think about, you know, my work in some ways in these COVID times is kind of taking second, you know, I don't get to spend so much time because I'm doing a lot of Zoom speaking, doing a lot of like cooking, cleaning, like all these things, you know, that just end up taking so much time. So to say,
you gotta have fun, Cynthia.
oh, I have a very rich Zoom life, and this is part of it. My Zoom life is very exciting.
Yeah, like, I mean, I'm really surprised, like my friend Nikki that is gonna be on, like we have these Zoom art dates and they're so much fun, you know? And we'll do them on Saturday morning for like 2 hours, and it's great, you know?
Well, I'm looking for a Zoom cleaning partner. Zoom hang up the call.
I don't know about that now. I don't think that will happen. If you want to create some art, we can do that, but I don't think I'll be doing the Zoom cleaning partner. No. I cannot read your name in. Oh, hi Chris, how are you?
So Nadine, before we end this, can you just tell me what the other cards were? There was the Bird of Paradise, and then
Oh no, so that was, I only picked one card. So so Birds of Paradise, and then it said joyfulness, magnificence, and wonderful anticipation.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah,
so I think that all the things that you were talking about, like, you know, going on vacation and remembering that time, and, you know, you said you had lots of shows, and, oh, you know what I wanted you to elaborate on? Why do you feel like, okay, like in your 30s, like, can you elaborate that? Because, oh, happy birthday. Cynthia turned 70. You know, I know she doesn't look like it, you know.
Happy birthday.
And she personifies like what you, you know, as you age gracefully, you know, Cynthia's always around. She has more energy than, you know, most 20-year-olds, you know. How we met each other at a co-working space. And, you know, I'm so thankful that she has, you know, as I feel like I'm a budding artist. I might not be a young artist, but I'm a budding artist. And she has come and supported me, and I really, really appreciate it. And she's going to be a guest two Wednesdays from now. And I look forward to hearing what we discuss and, you know, what we create. So she really inspires me to feel like I can do anything. So
Well,
why did you say that?
well, if you go through the art school, the system, in a sense, you know, I got a MFA. I went to a hippie. My undergraduate experience was very counterculture. I went to Antioch College in the 60s, so and 70s, which parenthetically is on my mind because I'm supposed to speak about that in Japan on Monday night, Tuesday morning, like in the middle of the night. So, and then I got an MFA at Maryland Institute, which is now called MICA, but whatever. And so you kind of get groomed for that system, you know, that you go into the gallery system and you're going to be, your goal is to be famous and make, you know, make money as a painter, which was never my goal. And so I went the route that everybody went in those days of teaching at the university level so that I wouldn't have to think about selling my work. But I still thought about, you know, getting into galleries, getting into shows, getting, you know, the write-up in Arts Magazine was like a really big deal. I mean, there was a point when I was written up a lot. It doesn't happen very much anymore, and I actually don't care that much. I used to say, about 20 years ago, I said, if my work gets well known enough so that I can be in somebody's dissertation 100 years from now, I'll be happy. Well, at this point, I've actually been in a lot of dissertations. So as a also ran, not as, you know, not about me, but I've been mentioned enough. So like I met that kind of minor goal, and I now can just return to the work. And I also think that that's what COVID actually brought for a lot of us. It's like, who cares, you know, just care about life, care about community, care about thinking, care about turning our country into a place of community-oriented thinking people, which is the bigger challenge, but I think what we all wish for on some level. So that's it. Yeah. But in my 30s, I was still like, still had those other goals. Okay,
I
so
think that's a really interesting point, that there has been some silver linings to the whole COVID situation where, you know, it's allowed you to kind of reassess where your life is and where your work's going. Whereas I know that pre-COVID was just moving so fast. I was just trying to, you know, get this done and get that done and try to keep my head above water. And then the pandemic hits and you kind of, all of a sudden everything stopped and you kind of had a moment to just sit back and think of like, was I doing this the right way? Or why was I doing this? Or, you know, all those things that you just didn't have time to like sit down and consider before. So I think that's kind of a silver lining that came out of this.
mm-hmm. Well, in a way, the lack of connection in person has promoted a kind of, for me, deeper connection with a lot of people in other ways. It's interesting. You know, somebody will figure this out, how communication has changed. I think it's actually changed for the better.
Ooh.
Yeah, Jim is looking like making a face, because we always think if we unmute.
I mean, yeah, what do you mean for communication is changing for the better?
Well, you know, we always think that if we get together with people, we have these deep conversations. And, you know, we did in the 60s, we'd sit around and stare at a candle and do whatever else went along with that. You know,
What is that, Cynthia?
I have these deep conversations about the meaning of life, but what am I don't know. Anyway, but then, you know, that didn't happen for like a few decades. And I think that now it may be the coincidence, it may be because of COVID. I mean, obviously COVID and having a virtual life, I mean, they're inseparable. We wouldn't have these huge big virtual life if we didn't have the fear of losing our lives or getting very sick hanging over us. So it's an inseparable moment. But I do find that people are reaching out more, that there's more communication of things that are really on people's minds, and that not just filling space, you know, like that's been my experience.
I think that's true. Yeah, you think about calling someone in the old days, you think, I'll go see, I'll see him sometime.
Yeah.
Now, no, you call them. I think that's actually pretty true.
Yeah, you call them and you actually really talk.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Talk. Yeah, or you would like meet somebody for a meal and you just like have the meal. Now, if you're Zooming, even if you're having the meal while you're Zooming or whatever, then you still really talk about things. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I'll let somebody else talk.
Does anyone else want me to do their cards?
Yeah, I'd love it. Thanks.
Okay. So, all
I'm
right.
chopping fennel, by the way, but yeah.
All right. Oh, what are you making with fennel?
Oh, there's this article in the recipe in the Times today, something with lentils, pasta, and I'm not sure. It'll spaghetti with lentils, tomato, and fennel.
Okay.
See how it works. But anyway, yes.
I love fennel.
Yes.
I think it's underrated. Like, people don't use it enough.
Totally.
My favorite recipe to do with fennel is with chickpeas. And you make like, it's a Southern French, someone from one of my cooking classes back in the day, like I teach a lot of cooking classes. And so back in the day, someone sent that recipe to me. So it's like chickpeas, you cook onions, fennel, and you sweat olive oil, sweat in olive oil, and then you put it in the food processor with aniseed, a little bit, and garlic and some other things. So when you taste it, it has like a little bit of licorice, a little bit of the aniseed. It's like a really interesting chickpea dip. All right, so James, like, here I'm shuffling the cards.
Okay.
All right, so put your energy in there. You heard the question. What do you want to cultivate? What do you want to blossom? What do you want to flower?
Okay.
Then tell me when to stop.
Okay.
All right. And then I'm going to, they're spread out, and then I have my jazz hands. I'm going over. Tell me when to stop.
Good. Stop.
You got tulip, passion. So why do you think you got passion?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm pretty engaged with, you know, things in my life and the political situation and a lot of writing that I'm working on.
Where do you feel like you're lacking passion?
Do I think I'm lacking passion?
Yeah.
Perhaps.
I said, where do you feel like you're lacking passion?
Oh, where? Oh, well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure a public Zoom is where I want to talk about it.
Alrighty then.
So suffice it to say that there might be some areas I will, you know.
Well, Well,
Okay.
maybe you might want to work on them. Maybe that's what the card
Yeah.
is saying.
I think that
You
might
know.
be. Yeah. Okay. That's what's came up. That's interesting.
All right. Chris, you want me to do your cards? Do you want me to do your cards? Yes? Okay.
It sounds like your microphone isn't working too well. I can just
Yeah.
kind of hear like a high squeaky pitch chipmunky sound. So maybe you should type in the chat.
Yeah, yeah. So just tell me, you know what you can do? Just
I'm not
use your.
hearing anything. Nadine, I don't know.
Can you hear me?
I can't hear you. I don't know what happened. It doesn't look like you're on mute, but
Yeah.
I'm not getting any sound.
Hi. Can you hear me now? Can people hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Can you guys hear me or?
Yeah,
I do
I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know, Cagen. Okay.
Oh, I heard something.
All right.
Nadine,
Everyone else can hear me.
I can hear you now.
Okay. All right.
I don't know
So
what happened.
just go when I'm shuffling. All right. And just say to stop, just say stop. But think about, what do you want to cultivate? What do you want to blossom? What do you want to flower? Tell me when you want me to stop. Now I'm spreading them. I'm running my hands over them. Tell me when you want me to stop. You got lotus flower, enlightenment, self-regeneration, and rebirth. So why do you think you got that? You can just type in the chat and then I'll say what you wrote. So lotus flower, enlightenment, self-regeneration, and rebirth. So Cagen, what are you working on?
Currently, I'm working on a comic. Are you talking about projects or just what am I working on like right this
Now,
second?
yeah.
I am working on a comic. I'm penciling in some frames. I can share and show real quickly. I
Okay.
won't take up much time there, but
Oh, okay. That's cool.
so I'm, starting to
Would you want to tell them about the process of like storyboarding, I guess?
so I will here, I'll stop the share. So I will draw something out on just with pencil. So this is like a storyboard. I just do a very rough drawing, usually with a colored pencil or just a regular pencil, and then I will, write the words out in here, and then I will transfer it onto my Wacom Cintiq tablet. I will, take it from here and then draw, pencil everything out like you just saw. So this is the first step where I usually start with a single concept, like something I want to.
I'm showing Chris. Yeah.
Something like an idea that I want to get across. So I usually have like the end of it first, and then I kind of build the story leading up to the ending. So this is a different comic. This isn't the one that I'm working on now because I'm penciling it directly onto the tablet for this one. But this is another comic that I'll do in the future. And my comics are about just different experiences that I have. So, or something that I think would be funny. So this one's about this penciled one is about getting into an Uber ride and it being a dealer car, like someone's on a test drive and they're out doing Uber pickups. So this one's about. And then the one that I'm working on right now, which is the food-based one, is about my wife and I out at dinner, and then because I'm a very much of a foodie kind of guy, so I get into this whole thing about how there's a certain food at each restaurant that you have to, every ethnicity has a certain food that you have to try to determine whether this is going to be good food or not. So like, you go to a Mexican restaurant, you immediately get the guacamole, because if the guacamole is terrible, then forget it. The rest of it's going to be terrible. If you go to a Middle Eastern restaurant and you have the hummus, and the hummus is bad, you know that you might as well just walk out then. So that's what this one that I'm working on right here is about.
So what is your test item for a Jamaican restaurant?
Well, my personal would be jerk, right? If their jerk is not good, then just walk out and never come back. And also, there's a couple different ones, but jerk is really my one for Jamaican restaurants.
So I just wanted to make a comment because I think it's really interesting that you start knowing what the end point is, which of course makes sense if you're doing, it's not the way that, and Jim can jump in here too, probably, and correct me. I don't think it's the way that most people write narratives.
Right.
With the end. But he said, so is that's what he just said, Jim, which is that he writes his comics by knowing what the last frame is going to be.
And then you get there.
And then
Right.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I mean,
Yeah. Well, comics are such a like kind of a short form of storytelling. It's really it's always kind of, as you're working on it, it's a working object, right? Like I'm sure it is with most writing, but with comics, what I always say is like you're trying to tell the most information with the least amount of lines when you're drawing it, and same for writing. You have to, I'll start out with more grand words, and I'll have a speech that I'll do, blah 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 blah, but then I'll realize that it doesn't fit in the frame with two characters and the background, so I have to cut it down to the very essence of what I want to say, instead of all the back and forth. So it's kind of an interesting way to write.
So is that the way that most comic strip people work? I mean, now that you say it, it makes sense. You've got if you don't know what your punchline is, you can't, it's like telling a joke, I guess.
Yeah, I think people have different ways of doing it, but I think I think the majority of comic artists or cartoonists work that way. For like in the strip format, when you're doing a long form book, like a 24-page action comic or something like that, it's a very different process, right? Because you've got all the ups and downs, the story arc and all that stuff. I doubt that they start with the ending, but yeah, so for a short form like this, it works.
Yeah, so interesting for me, because in my art forms, I start nowhere. I mean, I tease it out as it goes along. So it's just the complete opposite. So it's very
Yeah, well, it works, and I definitely, I tease it as it goes, right? Because it's everything, you have to fit it in the boxes, but yeah, I start with the ending. So I have, like a list of, in my phone, probably just like hundreds of kind of one sentences, as like, here's the punchline now, and then I start thinking how to build out the storyline leading to the punchline.
So Chris, he said about Lotus Flower, I'm working on several writing projects, but I have been pausing lately for the past couple of weeks. Sad face. The regeneration and rebirth I can see flowing from there quite organically, and hopefully I would imagine. So yeah, maybe it's just telling you also to look at things in a different way, maybe pick up an old project that you thought was metaphorically dead, what kind of writing do you do? self-published a memoir, but working on literary fiction, trying. So yeah, so I do some writing, not fiction. I used to do poetry. I'll do food writing. Hopefully, I might have got a cover for a national magazine for an event I did in New Haven. And so it's on pies. So should be coming out January, February. So yeah, food writing. I don't pursue it a lot because writing's very, it's easy for me, but the editing and the research, it's like, I wish writers got paid more because then I would pursue it more. I like food writing. I like recipe testing. I don't know if I could ever write a novel because I think I have ADHD. I don't know if I could develop characters like that, but I think I like fiction writing,
Well, if you ever need a kick to just
nonfiction.
write for the heck of it, right now, every November is National Novel Writing Month, where the idea is if you're participating, write a 500 or 50,000 word novel in the course of 1 month. It doesn't have to be good. The idea is just write. Get
Oh.
that word count.
Well, you know
So it's
what?
just
I
like
am.
if people need encouragement to get started.
Well, yeah, I am doing the artist way with a group of other artists. And so every morning I try and write my 3 pages. I've been pretty good. I do like probably 5 out of 7 days. It's 3 months, so people don't know what the artist way is. And you're supposed to, when you get up in the morning, write 3 pages, and it's supposed to be a brain dump. You're not supposed to really think about what you're writing. And I think it's like kind of like a meditation to me, but then also you kind of get all the gunk out of your head. It helps you process things too that I think that you're creating. You see like where you have patterns. So I am doing that, and we'll see like what that brings out. But yeah, maybe next year I'll do the novel challenge.
Yeah, National Novel Writing Month, often abbreviated to NaNoWriMo. You can find like communities online of people who encourage each other, and it's fun.
Okay. Well, you seem like you write, Rose. Do you write?
Only fan fiction.
Mhm.
Do you want me to do your cards, Rose?
Oh, sure.
All right.
And
Right.
actually, as opposed to writing anything, right now I'm crocheting. In between managing all the tech stuff, I'm working on a blanket I've been working on
Oh,
for a while.
nice. I've always wanted to, I don't know if I can learn how to crochet, but my aunt used to do it. I love it. I think it's so pretty.
Well, I didn't know how to either a few months ago. I
Oh,
went,
okay.
so the library has access to a website called Creative Bug that has videos on how to do a bunch of different creative projects. So I went on there and watched the videos on crocheting, and now I can crochet. Just basic stuff. I'm doing a lot of little granny squares and sewing them together, but I could make a blanket.
Well, that's funny how you just said that, because what I do with like doilies, I have an installation. Cagen, I did it as to help out Ife Franklin. One year when she did her she does
Slave
so
cabin.
yes, her slave cabins. And so she's an artist out of Boston, and she does this fabric technique out of Nigeria called adire, and it's beautiful. You use indigo, and there is the whole story behind, you know, indigo and the triangular slave trade. And so she does these beautiful designs, and she's been taught by an ancient, you know, sage that learned the techniques in Nigeria, and she wraps boards, and then she makes slave cabins. And so it's like beautiful white and blue slave cabins, and people can write different things. She usually puts a chalkboard there. So it's like they're very spiritual, and she does a ring shout and has a whole ceremony. And so in her 3rd iteration, I don't know if people have ever been to Boston's Franklin Park. It's my favorite park in Boston. And it's a Frederick Law Olmsted Park for those people in New Haven, you know. So Frederick Law Olmsted He's a landscape architect, so he's one of my favorite artists. So he designed Edgewood Park, Edgerton Park, and most of the major parks in, at least on the Eastern Seaboard, but all the way, like all the way in America, but yeah, down the Eastern Seaboard for sure. And so she did it there, and she needed help with food. I told her I would do the food. And so I did this whole thing. There's a movie called Daughters of the Dust, and it's about the Gullah Geechee people going from, they're in the south coast of Georgia and Savannah and Charleston down there. And they have a big connection. They retained their Africanisms because they were off to the coast. And so they didn't have as much interaction with the mainland. And they did the Great Migration. And the movie is about that. So it's about a woman from New Orleans coming back to meet her family in the Georgia Sea Islands, and then them doing the Great Migration, because a lot of Black people did the Great Migration because they couldn't make a living where they were. So like here, like even in New Haven, for instance, or Boston, if you ask people where they're from, like a lot of their families are from Alabama or Georgia. And so these Gullah Geechee people do beautiful crocheting and that kind of domestic fabric work. And so I've always wanted to do a tablecloth. And so I did put together all different doilies and pieces of beautiful fabric. So we did a whole tablecloth, but then four different types of tablecloths. So like I did a ribbon banner tablecloth, which are all ribbons and all different styles. And so everything was white upon white upon white because their fabric work is all white. And then kind of relating back to Africa and like the Afro spirituality and stuff like that. So that's me in doilies and crochet. All right, so
can I just ask you a quick question about something you said in passing there?
Mhm.
About the Great Migration, because we're now into a younger generation of people who were born in the North and whose families participated in the Great Migration. And I wonder how much they relate to their roots in the American South.
Yeah.
Like someone, I'm just curious about that.
Okay, can you ask the question again? Because I was reading Chris's comments.
Oh, what was Chris's comment?
Oh, he just said that he invested a better cam mic or something. He said just stay creative, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay active. So
okay, and Cagen, you might have an answer for this. I mean, anybody who thinks about it. It just, when you were talking about the Great Migration and where people were from, and I'm aware of the people who were in islands and somewhat separated, but I'm also thinking about the way that Italian Americans will say they're Italian, even though they've been here, their families have been here like 3 generations at this point. So if the Great Migration kind of really ended, I mean, I know people are still moving, but the big waves I think of as ending in the mid 60s. And I could be wrong because I'm not a historian. But there certainly are people who have been born in the North from families that had deep roots in communities in the South. And that next generation, do they relate to the roots in the American South?
well, I think that like here in New Haven, that a lot of the families, they're all like they're groups of families that are kind of related, like, and there's some from Georgia, some from Alabama, some from Mississippi, and a lot of those they still stay connected. They do family reunions every year, and they go down, they switch from down south to up north, like, and so Catro Storm. Kagan, you know Catro?
Yes, I know who he is.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, so he also was up in Boston, Cagen, but he comes from New Haven, and his family, I've known him from high school, and been to some of his family's family reunions. But a lot of people also, just like myself, being Jamaican, spent their vacations in those places. So I think it really depends on your family. Do you have a family that does family reunions? Did you go back and forth? There's people that in New Haven that they go down 12-hour car ride is nothing for them to do like every couple of months to go see their family. So I think it all depends.
Yeah, I think that most families from the Great Migration, I don't think most of them, there was still a family contingent down in the South, wherever that they were from, and they send their kids down for the summer. There's family reunions. I think there always was a connection that people kept with their Southern roots. I think that the younger generation, maybe not as much, right? When you're born here and you're raised here, and your only connection is kind of you go down the summer or you got cousins down there or something. So not as much. So I don't think that they're talking about the Southern aesthetic, or they're feel that connected. Except there are pieces that connect. The food. We're still eating Southern food, or you. In certain places it's different, right? In Boston and the Northeast, I think it's less so than places like Chicago or Philadelphia, where there was just a mass amount of people, and they really very much maintained their Southern roots. Like I have family that lives in Detroit, right? So when they came from Mississippi, they went up to Detroit, and Detroit is like a Southern city in the Midwest, right? People speak with Southern accents. They very much have their Southern traditions. They they definitely, because in Chicago, I know is very similar, where they all moved together and they just made kind of the South in the Midwest.
Well, I mean, obviously, food traditions stay like forever.
Right.
People expand what they eat and they branch out. But I mean, I had an interesting experience last year with having somebody from France live in my house who kept thinking that I was like American. In her way, and she'd say, "Oh, have you ever?" It was just like amazing. Like she thought I didn't even know what white wine vinegar was. um, yeah, I mean, we learn to expand. I mean, this is Nadine's whole thing. We learn to expand our food vocabulary, but we have our really basic back to the roots. And oddly enough, I mean, Jim and his daughter just got off, but we do holidays together. Not this year, but we often do holidays together. And it's just kind of amazing how on Jewish holidays, all of the old Eastern European Ashkenazi food just comes out. Oh, Jim is there. Okay. It just comes out, and people say like, what's your recipe? And it's like, I don't need a recipe.
It's in my blood.
Yeah, I've been like eating this for 70 years,
Who needs a recipe for latkes?
Right.
Latkes.
Yeah.
I love latkes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's my simmus that everybody wants a recipe for. And it's like, whatever.
Okay, so I got distracted, as I often do. So Rose, I just want to make sure I do your cards.
Okay.
Right, so please tell me when to stop. What do you want to cultivate, Rose? What do you want to blossom? What do you want to flower? And just tell me when to stop.
All right, stop.
Okay, I'm running my hands all over. When do you want me to pick a card?
Stop.
Coreopus? It's like, I don't know how to pronounce that. It's Coreopsis. Continual optimism and cheeriness. Do you see it? The flower?
Yeah. Coreopus? Huh. I want to look what that is.
Never heard of it.
Corey,
Yeah. You see it, Cindy?
can you hear? I'm going to type it in. COR. Can you see the letters?
COREOPSIS.
Yeah, Coreopsis.
Okay.
So
I-
why do you think you got that, Rose?
Sorry, what was that? The meaning for that again?
Continual optimism and cheeriness.
Well, I was thinking I'm going to be adopting a cat this Saturday, and I was hoping to cultivate a good relationship with the cat. So that's be optimistic that I will get along with the cat.
Okay. Continual optimism. Yes. I hope that you get along with the cat.
Yeah, he seemed pretty cheery. I met him. There's a cat cafe in Westville called MakeHaven, which is an adorable name.
Yeah.
So I went there specifically to adopt a cat because all the cats they have is from a shelter in North Haven, and all of them are adoptable. And my
Okay.
previous cat passed away in July, so I decided it is time for a new
sorry.
companion.
Okay.
So when I got there, the cat I'm adopting was very cuddly, sat in my lap, and enjoyed pets. So
Nice.
I think it's boding well.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Sounds like the cat claimed you.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, Cagen, what do you do outside of food and your art for fun or balance?
Well, I definitely, especially during the pandemic, this is something I enjoy anyway, but I like to go hiking, go out to the Blue Hills here in Massachusetts or up to Maine if I'm up there and try to do a little hiking. I really enjoy the quiet and kind of solitude of the woods. Like bike riding. I really enjoy bike riding through Boston and around or using that as transportation. It's so freeing, and you don't have to worry about parking, which is always a problem in Boston.
Indeed.
Yes, but I mean, eating and art are probably like 95% of the things I do for fun. But I enjoy bike riding and hiking and being outdoors and being active whenever I can. And
So
having
okay.
a 6-year-old definitely keeps you active.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, how is it being a father and husband, and you have a full-time job, you have your cartoon that your whole thing that you're doing. I know that you produce different events, you're on different panels, so you're very busy. So how do you continue, like keep up with your art practice?
It's challenging, especially while we were dealing with the beginning of the pandemic when it just like school stopped and all of a sudden you had to become a proficient homeschool teacher. I think that made it very, very challenging to get any work done. But oftentimes I will, my work time is from like 10 o'clock till 3 o'clock in the morning, right? So often I end up staying up late and getting my time in there. And the reason I do that is because I want to spend time with my family, right? When you really only get so much time during the day to before your kid goes to bed, before kind of separate for the evening. You get that time after school till bedtime that you really have like that family time, and I don't want to miss that. So sometimes you have to sacrifice your sleep time in order to get it all in. So definitely been a lot of late nights, but I'm up late doing things that I enjoy. So it's never, doesn't feel like a chore. In fact, I often have to remind myself that, you know, you have to go to bed because you have to get up in a couple of hours and be somewhat coherent on a Zoom call or something. So, you gotta, sometimes you gotta sacrifice, you know, but it's a balancing act.
What
And
is what would you tell a young artist right now?
Don't have kids. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Kids are wonderful. I love my kids.
I know
What I
you
would
love
tell,
kids.
I would tell a
I
young
love you
artist.
too.
What I would tell a young artist, and I was actually just meeting with this young man who asked me for, who was doing a school project or something, and asked me for advice about, how to get into comics and how to do comics. And what I would say to young artists is, or creators, is to just create. Like, don't let it, like, doubts or fears hold you back, or thinking that you're not good enough. Just create stories, draw every day, write every day, make it a practice, make it a habit to work on your art. And it won't seem like a chore, because it's something you do every day. It's habitual almost. So I would say to a young artist, just work, get that work done, share the work, have your group of trusted people that you can run your work past to get feedback and stuff before you send it out to the public. But don't be afraid to send it out to the public. Put it out there. You'd be like, I know so many artists who do their work and then they're just scared to share it with people because they think they'll be judged or they think it's not good enough. But, my experience has been, most of the time, if you believe in your art, your work, and you put your heart into it, people are going to love it. You know what I mean? So, and, as far as marketing yourself, you got to be consistently putting work out there, or, you know, you're only as good as your last artwork. So just keep making artwork. And if you do something that doesn't work out, that's okay. Just move on to the next one.
That's what is really hard for me, is that I think that the way that I have associated art is like with immense beauty.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is like the Libra in me. And I know that there's all different types of art, but I'm saying that what I relate to and what I like. Um, and that can be subjective.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like what you're saying, I have a coach, and um, she's trying to get me with putting out work that, instead of thinking about the A+, she's like, put out C+ work, just put out the work,
Right.
like just put out the work, and then also like oftentimes like our idea of C+ work is like for most people A+, like, and like going out of my way, making myself crazy, like for, like I didn't do as much marketing for this because it's like it all came together really fast, um, and so I'm glad that we can tape it and like people will be able to see it, and I'll market it, and
And it'll just live on our Facebook page so people can
right.
access it anytime.
Yeah, and I'll direct people there too, because it's like I feel like for a lot of people who are into comics and just the advice that he just gave, it's like it's worthwhile to hear, and like what Cynthia talked about, that it's like it's meant for people to get inspiration and stuff like that. But I was really kind of nervous, but it's just like, it's supposed to be like about a process and, a good time, like I don't have to think that, oh, I couldn't do it at MakeHaven and all these different things. It's just like, just take it for what it is, and enjoy the process, because oftentimes we're, we're so obsessed with how something turns out that we don't enjoy what it is,
Right. And really, I mean, if you're going into a career in art, or even it's something you're passionate about and you want to continue doing it, it's oh, I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? It's just you just got to do it.
Yeah.
It's yeah, don't get in your own way. Get out there and put the work out. And if you look at, like, some of my favorite comic artists, like Jim Davis, for instance, who is, does Garfield. Great comic, been around forever. It's an iconic comic. But if you go back and look at his early Garfield strips, and then you go look at his, 10 years later Garfield strips, there's a huge difference. Like, he wasn't like Garfield has to be perfect before I put the first strip out. He did what he could do at that time, and he kept developing it as he went along, right? You're that once you that is, unless this is your like final piece of artwork, you can't look at it as, you can't ever do another piece, right? Like you just got to keep producing, and you develop as you go along, and you share your work and get feedback and try different things and make mistakes and learn lessons, and then you try again. And the thing is that, and what I was going to say before is like, you have to love the process. If you don't love the process, you're going to get burnt out from art really quickly. So you have to, figure out whether you love the process. Because I would be making comics if no one was reading them. I'd still be making them because I love the process of making comics.
So Whoopi Goldberg says that about acting, that she's like, everyone wants to be an actor, but they really want to be famous, because
Right.
she's like, you can, it's like anyone, she's like, anyone could be an actor. You can do regional theater. You can, like there's so many different things about acting, but people want to be really famous. And that's what it's all about. And so
Right.
like, I feel like for myself, like, yeah, like for me, it's about the work. It's not about fame, and I want to be respected. I do
Right.
want my work to end up in the Smithsonian and places like that. I actually do.
Of course, we all want to succeed, right? Of course, I want my comic to be nationally syndicated. I want Netflix to sign me to a contract, and
Well,
I'll
let's put it
create
out
an
there.
animated
Let's
show.
manifest it. Let's
Yeah,
manifest
absolutely.
it.
But that's not. But if that doesn't happen, it's not going to stop me from doing my work.
Right. Exactly. And that, I love cooking. I love developing recipes. I love, like my Oshun thing. If it doesn't end up in the Smithsonian, like I just love making gold stuff, and I have a mirror behind here, and I have an altar. Like I have to make things in different, stages. But I just like love and like, making things come together as slowly as fast as it can
Right.
happen.
So can I just answer that? Because that was kind of the point of what I was saying. So maybe I already said it. Between being 35 and being 70. It's like, I don't want that anymore because it's like too much pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want somebody to give me a big show somewhere that I have to like stop everything and just do nothing but try to keep the fame machine going.
Right.
I don't necessarily want to keep the fame machine going, but I wouldn't mind like, continuing the ride of wonderful residencies and, like a patron, supporting my art and saying, you're a domestic diva. You shouldn't do anything but your artwork. I don't mind that.
Absolutely.
And I do have to remind myself when these calls for artists in residence come along and I'm like, oh, I can't do that. I can't even fill it up. But then I have to like remind myself, oh, but I had an 8-month residency in Marseille, video.
Well, why don't you talk about that? Because you know what, a lot of people feel like in my family, like I've always been artistic. And I mean, like I love to sing, I love to dance. I guess I showed my shine in regard to writing. But it's like something that I feel like they, being Jamaican immigrant, like they weren't, into that. And so, what I try and tell them now, like I wish I would have known what I knew now, that you can make your living as an artist, especially like if you're disciplined, because a lot of if you combine those two things together, like where, I have the creative mind, but I do have that sense of like, I was an administrator, so I can be disciplined. Is it like where I want to be all the time? No, but I can write my, proposals. I can, do things like that can manifest. And if I would have known, like, I have former students that, they've lived their life as artists from the beginning and, traveling all around the world, doing what they want. And, that is possible too.
Yeah. Well, I think, you're doing it right now. This current thing you're doing. creative in residence. I think that artists' residencies are definitely the way to go. And I wish that, you know, the grants, I mean, people will kill me for saying it's being recorded, but, you know, to get the Commission on the Arts grants, which I've gotten 3 of, they're great because they show support and their encouragement, but financially, they actually don't do as much for you as an artist residency, because one of the big pressures of being an artist is exactly that, getting your work out. And so if you have an artist residency, you have a whole institution that not only gives you the materials you need to do your work, but they also will help promote you. You know, so it's worth much more. It's like hiring a publicist and a teacher at the same, or a disciplinarian at the same time.
Yeah.
You got the residency, so you have to produce the work, and then it comes with a publicist built in. So like, what could be better?
Exactly. James, did you
Right,
want to
and
say something?
Cynthia, yeah, I was just going to say, Cynthia, you used to be at a university, right? You were a full-time faculty member for a while, and that, I think, you know, kind of is another way to make a living. But unfortunately, that is a way that's kind of drying up at this point, which is too bad, because
yeah.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean
Oh,
to.
no, I was just going to say, I mean, and also teaching, at least for me, I don't know. I mean, it takes a lot of time. And I mean, a lot of times I think the time I'm spent preparing for teaching and grading papers is time I'm not writing. But at the same time, it keeps your mind going. You know, you're dealing with problems, you're dealing with, you know, reading things and thinking about things that you should be thinking about, and having contact with other people, which is also a kind of a beneficial thing, I think, in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, I only realize that now that I'm not teaching, you know, the way that I would walk into a museum, and instead of looking at a painting and saying, oh, this, you know, how can I get ideas from my own work? I always thought, how can I get ideas from my teaching?
Yeah.
It always clicked in that way. How it fed into my work, I don't know. But I would say the structure of teaching was even better. The fact that you could take a leave of absence if you got a good artist residency. So, you know,
Right.
so you had like the built-in, and the summers. I mean, remember when I first started teaching, my first job was so intense, I could barely do any art. It was just like unbelievable. It was at a state college in Maryland. But when summer came, it would be like, okay, 3 months, you know, and I had these 3 months to get the work done. And that's all I did. You know?
Yeah.
So, and
Right. And the summers are short, though. Summers, they seem long and then they're short.
they're short, but I got so much done.
Yeah.
Because of that. Anyway,
Show people I did finish my seagull, the different colors.
It's a seagull.
Yeah. So my message was, every minute I work is filled with fun, creativity, excitement, abundance, prosperity, joy, service, and positive surprises with peaceful and productive people. I like peaceful people.
Nice.
Peace, man.
Yeah. Peace. We're all going to be wanting a lot of it soon. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I was trying to not be too political, you know, because
right.
It's out there. It's out there. We're creating our own reality. We're manifesting our own reality.
Honestly, I could use a break from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I took a break from it. Like and it was the best thing ever. Like I feel great, you know. I can't control the outcome. So I'm not gonna go blow by blow and get all in a tizzy about it.
Right. And it's gonna take forever this time anyway.
Yeah. So how do you feel like, you know, where is art going for the future now that there's COVID? You know, like, how do you feel like that's going to change what artists do? I know for myself, it's kind of sad because a lot of what I do is like face to face, and social sculpture to me, it's like, you know, it's a different effect being with people. I don't know if I'll be able to serve food again, like the way that we did. So that kind of saddens me because that's an asset that I have. And, now I have to do like smellology. Well, I'm putting it into smellology. It's like, well, this is what the food would smell like. Smell it and close your eyes and, visualize. So I'm kind of sad. But then, like you have to develop other things. So that's what it's like making me do. And then just being on this Zoom call, like this is not something I would normally do, but then it's great because then it stays in posterity and other people will watch it. And so there's benefits, but I miss going to a museum and Cagen in New Haven, the Yale Art Gallery. Have you ever been there to the Yale Art Gallery?
I don't think so. My sister went to Yale, so I may have in like the 90s.
Okay. Yeah, they have actually really good African American collection. They have like Romare Beardens, they have like Titus Kaffir, they have, Carrie Mae Weems, they have like a lot of really, just great artists in general, but they have a really nice African American collection. And so you can just walk, it's free. You just walk in off the street. And so you're downtown, you have time between meetings, they have a really beautiful roof deck that you can go outside. They have a really nice outdoor patio space that's connected, a courtyard that's really pretty. So, I miss like being able to just walk off the street and go. And like now they're only open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and you have to make an appointment. And it's so hard. Like it's one of those things like the ICA. I was like, when I was up in Boston, like maybe a month ago, I'm like, I want to go to the ICA. I want to go to the MFA. I want to go everywhere. And I'm like, if they open up the tickets on Friday and then they close them like 1 minute after, like they're all sold out, so.
Well, I've been trying to
closed now.
Pardon?
They're closed again.
Okay. Yeah.
The second one.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Boston. Yeah. So that's what I miss most.
Mm-hmm.
Do you live in Boston? I thought you were in New Haven. So.
No, Cagen or?
Yeah, Cagen.
No, Cagen. No, he's
I
in
live
Boston.
in Boston. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So each month, Cynthia, I mix it up. So so this month there's 2 people from New Haven. There's you and Amira Brown next week. And then the last person, Ramin, lives in Westport. And she's a cookbook author and has written several cookbooks. So each month I'll have a chef or a cookbook person, and then I'll mix up all the different artists.
Okay. Unfortunately, I can't come next week because I'm going to be in Japan at 9 o'clock.
That's all right. I appreciate you coming this week, and I appreciate you coming the next week after that.
Yeah, it's me. Yeah, they actually did the schedule that has me from 9 to 11 or so, and then she put in 4 hours sleep in the schedule. Cynthia gets to sleep for 4 hours, and then I have to get up and continue the event. So
well, good luck with that sleep.
For 4 hours, knowing that I have to speak again. 5 in the morning. Yeah.
How cool. You get to travel across the world. So.
Well, most years I actually do get to travel across the world. They pay for my ticket. And
nice.
It's a break-even trip because they only pay for 3 nights hotel. And I stay longer. So whatever else they give me is gone by the time I'm
I'll bet. Because why would you go to Japan for 3 days?
Well, because I've been doing it for 8 years, but still, why would you
go? Right?
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I just wanted to respond to the question, like, how does the art world changed? Kind of because COVID, obviously in-person events are not happening for the foreseeable future, and that sucks. But it's also, there's opportunity here with this, connecting with people that you wouldn't ordinarily be able to connect with, where you can, I can be at a con panel for a con in California. You know what I mean? I can be, working with a guy in Montreal. You know what I mean? You can, it expands your audience, and it expands your reach, and expands who you're influenced by. Of course, the internet had broken down the barriers before, but we weren't really using it. Like I never
Right,
used
exactly. Yeah.
Zoom before this happened. I mean, I did a couple of meetings on Google Hangout or whatever, but hardly ever. So everything was very much locally focused, right? And as far as like producing events and all of that, and my artwork and stuff like that. And now it doesn't have to be, right? There's literally no barriers to where you can connect with the people. And I think that also kind of shuts down the gatekeepers, like we were talking about earlier, like the gallery system, right? And how it's just this. I never wanted to be a part of the gallery system just because I saw it's such a there's gatekeepers and who they say whether your art is valuable or not, right? And I never wanted to be judged in that way where it was like they put, this guy's art is worth $50,000 and yours is worth $500 because his name is this and your name is that, or he knows this person or I know that person. So I think that the gallery system kind of dying out, I think is a good thing because the gatekeepers are no longer controlling what is good art and what is not, right? People can choose for themselves. And I think that in all sorts of artwork, not just visual arts, painting, stuff like that, but like film, the gatekeepers are gone. The music, and comics, all forms of art now, there's, the big corporate monopoly machines that were kind of holding it in its box are now been destroyed. So there is no box. And I think that's a great thing to get more voices, more diverse voices, more diverse artwork, more diverse stories being told without that gatekeeping. And I think that's a positive, and COVID, I think it was happening already, but COVID just propelled it forward.
And in many disciplines, the rise in technology, aside from Zoom, but it's also made things possible. For instance, filmmaking, people can now go out with their iPhones that they were going to buy anyway, maybe a cheaper model, but a few $100s more, and they can film something, they can edit it now in the camera, in the whatever you call this,
Right.
and
distribute it, right? They can get people to see it.
And they can get people to see it. So
I think, yeah, that's been a kind of a great side effect of this pandemic.
And I think the film festivals are still going to be important, but not the big distributors. The film festivals that, again, they don't necessarily, I don't know how they make their money. I mean, like Sundance is funded by people who had money to start with, Robert Redford, someone who had money. So it's slightly different from the studios that had big budgets and had to make things for the market.
Right, exactly.
That's great.
So we have 6 more minutes. What are your last, little nuggets of knowledge that you want to be able to deliver, Cagen? Or do you want to ask me something? I don't know.
Last little nuggets of knowledge. Well, I want to share to show you what I was
exactly.
working on. Did it share?
Yep.
So this is the comic that I was working on while we were talking. So I got about 3 panels of pencils in, which is pretty cool. Got some work done, but I also have some comics that I'm working on. I could show you some more completed ones. So this is one I just finished about, life and sharing your interest with your kids and if they're ready or not. So that one hasn't been released yet. Here's another one that hasn't been released yet. So these are what my comics look like when they're finished. Just slice of life stories, silliness, but also sometimes getting political or issue based. But yeah, so I guess my advice is to just make art. If you want to get into being an artist, just make art and don't let anything stand in your way. Just keep continuing it. Don't get discouraged. It's a process. It takes a while. You're not gonna, chances are you're not gonna make one piece of artwork and then be world famous. It's gonna take years and years of hard work and grinding and learning how to market yourself and getting your stuff out there in the world, and just be ready for your opportunities when they come along. Because if you are working and you're putting art out there, opportunities will come to you, but you have to be ready to accept them when they come. Because a lot of times you are been working and you've been kind of doing this small scale thing, and then this opportunity comes along for you to do something big. Someone says, here's $50,000, make a huge mural on the wall, and you're like, what? I've never done that before. That doesn't matter. Just do it anyway. Figure it out as you go along. And that's part of the fun.
It is. Because I think that sometimes if you are going to, if I would have thought about like last year, because I said, okay, I'm going to do some installations. I'm going to push myself. And I didn't really, because I couldn't really think about it, because if I would have thought about it, I would have been like, nope, 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 nope. And so I was just like, I just had to do it. And then I just wrote out like proposals. And then you're like, oh, I got it. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to do it now. So it's like, like waking up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and you're like, I got to make artwork. I got to fill a wall, but then you're like, you're surprised at like what you can do,
Right.
when you push yourself, like these cards, you're like, these are 50 cards, and I made 2 sets of cards. So let me end with that. Like, we have 3 minutes. Let me end with that, because this has been very affirming. So let me do your affirmation cards. Okay. So I'm just tell me to stop, and then I'm just going to pick a card.
Okay.
Cagen. And then I'll do everyone's.
And stop.
All right. So I'm just going to pick off the top. I have the power to change my world. Right?
Yes. That's something I very much believe.
All right. Cynthia, tell me when to stop.
Stop. Did you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
My body, mind, and soul are the picture of perfect health. Look at that on your 70th.
Yeah.
All right. My body, mind, and soul are the picture of perfect health. And then combined with your the birds of paradise, it's like you'd be living like it's 1995 or 85 or whenever you went to Martinique. Okay, Rose, let's get a card for you.
Stop.
All right. I have much to celebrate about myself and life. Your cat, and a beautiful holiday season. So we're down. We ended the first one. Yay!
Yay!
Thank
Nice
you,
work.
you guys.
This was fun, Nadine. Thank you for having me.
Yes, it was fun. Thank you.
And it was so great to meet you, Cagen.
You as well, Cynthia.
Wonderful. And now, will you give us a link to where we can follow your work?
Sure.
Yeah, it's on the
Oh yeah, we had
yeah,
it.
it's on there. Yep, like his lunchtimecomics.com is on there.
Can you like regularly post it to Facebook or something so we get the little push to look?
Yep, weekly.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
I publish them weekly.
Yeah, but do you have a Facebook page?
Yep, it's Lunchtime Comics. You can just look up on Facebook at Lunchtime Comics, or look up my name and you'll find everything there.
Okay,
I'll post that link to the comments to the Facebook.
Great.
Right. And then when like tomorrow, I will put the link on my Facebook and send it around. I'll send it to you, Cynthia.
Okay, and it might be good for the next few weeks to post it again and say, guess what?
Exactly. And that people will get to see, they'll see what it is. Because I think that a lot of people probably don't kind of understand the concept, and that I think that it was a fun way to spend 2 hours.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
And we get to do it again next week.
Nice to meet you.
All right.